Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Amber Payne. I'm co-editor-in-chief of The Emancipator, which is a new publication being launched by the Boston Globe in collaboration with Boston University, created to reframe the conversation about racial justice and equity and reimagine that first abolitionist newspaper for a new day. And I'm really honored to be here to speak with Janae Osterheld. Janae can turn her camera on about A Beautiful Resistance, which is an incredible project. I first took note of season one, and I was kind of in awe and surprise and in wonder that that Janae created this, just that this was part of the Boston Globe and that this was a mission to talk about and show and illustrate Black joy. So Janae, I'm so honored to be in conversation with you about this.
Likewise. As you know, I very much admire you and I'm so glad that you are part of the BGMP family. So thank you.
Well, you know, this season has been incredible. I mean, you started with acting Mayor Janey. You introduced us to some beautiful people along the way who had their own beautiful resistance to share, from dancers, chefs, photographers, and more. But I thought we should start out with your beautiful resistance, Janae. And I wanted to put that to you. You did talk about this in your behind the scenes video, which was a really great snapshot of how you all did what you did this season. But why is your life a beautiful resistance, Janae?
My answer changes every time. My life is a beautiful resistance because I witness, I tell our stories, I love us, and I understand that it's not about just amplifying my voice, it's about amplifying the voices of our community and other communities that have been marginalized.
I love it. And I can relate. I mean, you've been a culture columnist for over a decade. And I was hoping you could talk a bit about the moment that A Beautiful Resistance was born. What was that born from in your mind?
It was really spiritual. I was one of those people who truly followed all the rules in early pandemic, especially because I don't have family in Boston and I'm single. And so it's like me and my dog in a South End studio apartment. I hadn't really hugged anyone or touched anyone in months when George Floyd was murdered. And I flew out to Minneapolis to cover the funeral and cover the activist on the ground. And it was such a, I've been covering BLM since Trayvon Martin. So it's like, it's not that I had never covered these things before. I've covered them so much, it's my spirit is weary. But I think there was something different about being in Minneapolis because I started my career, I interned in Minneapolis. So I know what that city's supposed to look like like when it's not being militarized, when it's not so you can't eat or catch an Uber or anything. And so much grief was compounded on top of grief on top of grief. It's the first time I saw journalists openly mourn, because so often they won't express opinions, especially if they're not columnists. And I just knew, like, when I got back to Boston, it happened very fast. I wrote on a piece of paper, your life is a beautiful resistance. And I told my editor, I said, hey, I'm going to continue to cover social justice. I'm going to continue to cover oppression and supremacy. But I need a space, like, more than just profiles, because Black journalists, I didn't reinvent the wheel. Like, Black journalists have always written profiles about our community. Black newspapers have always celebrated our community. But I wanted to create a space at an institution like the Boston Globe, one of the top media companies in the country, a physical space, like a website, a microsite, and to have like all these access points, long form stories, short Q&As, an Instagram page, videos, every type of access point that celebrated our nuance and celebrated our life. Like, it felt like the more I looked at my career and I thought about the stories I saw at the papers I worked, Black people, the stories of us were only being told if we were like the LeBron James of people, like just extraordinary and gifted in some way, or we were being brutalized. And how can you get the whole fullness of a people if that's how you're telling their stories? So I just wanted a physical space. I wanted a beautiful resistance to be a place where we could actually celebrate our dreams and our joy and our life. And I knew that even then I would share the space with other folks of color too in different ways. But that's how it was born.
Yeah. And I appreciate, I was going to say it's 360, but it's 365. Also, I feel like, there are just so many constant ways to engage with the beautiful resistance, from Instagram to the profiles, to the video series and the docu-series. But I wanted to hear from you on some of the unifying elements of this season, how this season compares to season one, what you were really trying to focus on and achieve with season two.
This season is, to me, our best work. It's really season 2.5 because we had a Black History Month, like teeny tiny season. But I feel like this season, I got the resources to, I'm sorry, someone just asked, forgive me, someone just asked a question in the chat and I was trying to answer it and it accidentally deleted it. Here you go. They wanted the playlist. This season is special to me because first season was like proof of concept. Like, even though my editor fully supported me, we didn't have resources. It was me and one videographer. We don't have any Black videographers on staff. That's Pepper Patty, living her beautiful resistance. Mommy, it's okay, we're safe. Look, I'm safe, you're safe.
Birthday dog.
Yes, she's 10, happy 10th birthday. It was me and Caitlin, and I love Caitlin. She's amazing, and I'm so grateful for her. But even Caitlin was like, I wish, both of us wanted to have Black people behind the camera. And when I say it was me and Caitlin, it was me and Caitlin. We had Ryan Huddle and Heather Cyrus kind of helping with web design and audience, but I don't think people understand, like, I write the stories. I am the person that's talking to you on the other side of Instagram. I'm the person doing, curating and storyboarding. It's so much of it is me. And I wanted to be able to have someone who could come in on the other side of the camera and, to help tell those stories. So second season, I was allowed to have not one, but 3 Black local video storytellers, visual storytellers, to help execute my vision. And I think it really makes a difference. I feel like season 2 feels even more soulful and more poignant and more poetic. And season 1 was gorgeous. I stand by it. I'm proud of it. I love it. But season 2, it's like, I feel like it's solidified. We're here and we're going to keep doing this work. So I'm so proud of it. And I feel like season 1 was very much about place and where you are. And season 2 was very much about purpose. And the stories of the people overlapped in that way where it's purpose. So I can't wait to see what season 3 brings and how we tell those stories.
Yeah. I mean, purpose, I noticed walking in your purpose and what it means to dream and finding joy in unexpected moments or places or just circumstances in life, and, people who defied the odds and stereotypes. So let's talk about casting. I mean, I appreciate how you have this kind of, I mean, everybody's a multi-hyphenate. Black people, we're multi-hyphenates, but that's evident in the storytelling, but it's not hitting me over the head with it, like packing it in. I just thought it was a very kind of graceful way of weaving in these stories of people who have so many complexities. So just what was your approach to casting this season?
It's interesting because so many people think that I like sort through pitches, like people pitch. And I'm like, people of course pitch. They're like, please feature me. But that's actually not how I do this. Everything is very organic and very spirit led. And that's not, I always tell people, it's not that, like, everyone has a beautiful resistance. Like, just because you're not one of the people starring in the videos, who's to say you're not going to be a voice in the long form story? The videos is one person's story. The companion written piece normally has 3 to 4 voices in it. The Q&A is another voice. So it doesn't mean I'm not seeing the pitches. Like, I find ways to weave people in different ways, but the actual videos, I have lists that I keep throughout the year of people that I meet at events, people that I meet, in an audience asking questions when I'm on panels, people that I see out in the community doing things. And I get that little feeling in my gut, like, is this person being celebrated enough? Do people know this person's story? Does this person feel like, have they shared their vulnerabilities? Like, yeah, Kim Janey was our acting mayor, but I also feel like there were so many things about Kim that we hadn't explored. And people will be like, oh, this is the acting mayor. But I'm like, are we really marking this appropriately? Like, right. It's not about her becoming the mayor, elect when it's time for the election to come. To me, it was like, are we marking this moment and what it actually means in Boston's history? Yeah. So in that way, it was untold to me. And, Chef Douglas, like, yes, he's always being like celebrated, but had we ever really got to know Chef out of the kitchen? And know about his mom, know that he listens to, this like straight hip hop. He's like rapping underground hip hop while he cooks and loves to dance. And, stories like Dart Adams, which I'm so excited about people like Dart and Che from first season, because they, to me, were heroes. And it felt like no one knew that. And now after season 1, both of them, as well as OJ Slaughter, they've all had so many opportunities and been able to go on and have way bigger platforms and get what I feel like is their proper garden of flowers. Mm-hmm. So I'm always trying to mix and match like the underdog, the stories that haven't been told, but also sometimes the people that we think we know that we don't quite know the way we think we do. Yeah. And then the questions. Like first season, I feel like you can watch that and see it's very much about place. It starts with water, it ends with land. So I'm also looking at my list, like, what is the through line between these people? And then sometimes you have a plan. I mean, you're a journalist. Sometimes you have a plan and you think these are my people, but then things happen, especially during the times of COVID. Someone will get COVID, or they are scared about coming out or having people come to their house. So you have to, shuffle things. There's been people who came along both in first season and second season that weren't planned, but were so perfect. Mm-hmm. Like Golden is literally one of the most powerful episodes we've ever made. And Golden and I had worked together on A Beautiful Resistance. Golden was part of the Pride I Carry With Me. And I always wanted to do something else with Golden. And when we were making ABR, I just kept feeling like something was missing. Yeah. And it was Golden. And I was just like, I reached out and said, Golden, do you have time for me? Do you have time for us to do this? And they were so generous. And I was just like, and then my spirit felt so much better. I was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. So casting is just like very spirit-led, very spirit-led.
Definitely. That's a great insight to hear. Big Lux, he talked about wanting to be a voice for others, a voice for the disenfranchised. He plays violin, he's a veteran, he's a accomplished person. He talks about wanting to run for office, but one thing that stood out that he said, it's our mission as Black creators in this area to create an identity for ourselves. And he talks about being from Rhode Island, but what do you think of when you think of a Black person from Rhode Island? It's not like thinking about St. Louis and associating with Nellie, just New England Black identity. And, you've been here for 3 years. You've been covering people all over this, region. But what have you come to learn or come to think about, identity and Black identity in Boston?
One, we're here. Like, that's the most important thing. We're here. So many people think we're not here, including some people who live here. Like, there's Black people who live here who think we're not here. Like, when they hear that Greater Boston is a quarter Black, they're astounded. They're like, well, where are they? And that's such a complicated question, because it's like, we're here, but we're also so disenfranchised and locked out of the epicenter of the city because of the housing crisis and pay equities and different various social justice factors that keep us from finding each other unless you move to a community that is explicitly Black. And if you're moving into the city, you wouldn't know which communities are explicitly Black. So I think part of it is like making sure we are seen. And and we're here. And the other part of it is understanding that there's no one way to be Black. Like, people think Black Boston and they have all these thoughts like, oh, Black Boston is Roxbury, Black Boston is New Edition, Black Boston is Tito Jackson and Kim Janey, like Black Boston is these very, you know, it's Slades and Darrells. And those are all very Black Boston, but Black Boston is also incredibly Afro-Latino. It's incredibly Afro-Caribbean. It's Haitian. It's, you know, it's that, it's Naja, it's you know, it's African, it's all over the diaspora. We are such a nuanced thing. It's punk, it's hip hop, we have, one of the things I love most about New England is Black people here are both very much, you know, the Black us as a community embrace, you know, we are the soul, we are the seasoning, the flavor, the juice, but we also break stereotypes. You know, we're out here, you know, in our North Faces and Patagonias, like hiking and still enjoying the beach when it's cold. I mean, we're doing things that people do, drinking iced coffee when it's good. I feel like we break a lot of tropes. There's a lot of, you know, Dart Adams, I always refer to him over and over again, just because I don't think people ever expect Dart, and he's a surprise and delight moment for everyone, because he's both very hip hop and amazing, but he's also incredibly Bostonian in every way. Like, he's authoritative, he knows his stuff, he will argue you down, which is a very Boston thing. Like, so I've just learned so much about the pride, the persistence, and the you're not gonna take my voice, which is a Boston thing, but it's also a Black thing. Like, it is a Boston, no matter who you are, Boston thing, like loud, proud, we here, but it's also a very Black thing. And I think Black Boston has become what I've learned in being here right from the beginning. Like, if you look at some of my first stories for the Globe, I realized how dedicated Black people here were to making space, to creating space, and I mean space in everywhere, space for joy, space for politics, just space. Theo Tyson in the audience just asked about making sure that space has authority, and how I've done that. And first, thanks for even saying that I made sure that space had authority. Wow. But I think it's, you know, making sure not, you know, I tell these stories, but I also take their names into other rooms. Well, you know, when I told the story of Dart, I also went to editors and was like, this is the person who I've been saying should write for the magazine. When I tell the story of OJ, this is the person I said we should be hiring to do photo assignments for us. I also did a panel with the ICA, and I was like, OJ Slaughter should be on this panel. Che Anderson should be on these panels. So it's also taking those names and carrying them into other rooms when they didn't ask you to, carrying them to other rooms just because they belong there. And that's part of building that authority. You know, when I'm telling the story of Jessica Pierre is now gone on to, I mean, she's right, you know, chief of comms for Mayor Wu. I wrote about Jessica when she was a political blogger and creating space for Black women.
Yep.
And I wrote about her with authority. This is why you should know Jessica Pierre. And then she went on to start doing more and more things. And I would never say I'm responsible for Jessica or responsible for Dart or responsible for Che or OJ's success, because I'm not. They're successful because they are talented and experts in all of their crafts. But when a journalist shines light on people, it helps. It does help. And that's, to answer Theo's question about authority, I think it's part of creating and uplifting that space. When you tell a story with nuance and reportage, it helps, and you show the fullness of people. Those people out there who give opportunities and make room, they're like, oh yeah, I should be including this person.
It's powerful. It's the power as a journalist and the responsibility. And my last question, because we have another special guest with us, and it relates to this. I mean, in the behind the scenes video on A Beautiful Resistance season 2, you showcased the Black talent behind the camera. This mantra is not just in front of the camera. You were able to really bring it to life behind the camera. And, you know, Damien talked about Black joy being able to claim something and say it's yours. And Kat talked about, claiming space and coming into yourself. And you're going to be speaking with Cheney Carson Bullock coming up, who will speak to that too. But just for the audience, just hit on that more about, the behind the camera and these APR fellows and how you think that took things to another level for this season.
So the fellowship is so important to me. I got budget to hire one Black videographer. And as we were looking at candidates, the more and more I looked at them and interviewed with them, I was just like, my person who I was doing this with, Anush, who's head of video at the Globe, I was like, I wish we could use more of them. And she was like, well, maybe you could use one of them for next season or something like that. And I was like, or we could use them all this season. I mean, Shonda Rhimes and Ava DuVernay have different directors for their shows, like every episode. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, we could just split this money 3 ways, pay everybody their rate. Like, we didn't shortcut anybody. Actually, we elevated their rate. Cheney could speak to that. But the price went up. Yesterday's price is not today's price. So getting 3 distinct voices to me was important, because so much of this is my ideation and my saying, here's the people we're going to interview, and this is what time we're going to meet and where, and all these things. And I need another creative voice, another person, to check me, to say, no, that's whack, or yeah, that works, or, to know that you're not going to shoot a Black person this close up because we don't like that. Just different things, different languages, to speak by language, really, which made me so much more comfortable than I've ever been in front of the camera, and also allowed us to actually be Black joy. That's one of the things I probably should have answered earlier. The biggest difference is I feel like you can actually see the joy. Like the Chef Douglas episode is one of my favorites because it's just so much joy. And Cheney, I love all of my videographers. They're all great, but I worked with Cheney the most. The other 2 couldn't be here today because they are booked, blessed, and busy, and I'm so proud of them. Cheney is too. He just graciously always makes time for me because he's become my little brother. So I'm so happy to bring Cheney to the stage, and I'm so happy to have been in conversation with you. You are amazing, and everyone should be checking for the Emancipator, signing up for the newsletter, and just, we are taking agency of how we tell our stories. BGMP is in a new era, in a new chapter of doing things, and we're not looking back. And the only time we're looking back is for historical references.
Well, thank you so much, Janae. And I'm going to log off and log back in for your conversation with Cheney.
Thank you. Cheney.
Hey, Janae.
Hey. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you.
What is your beautiful resistance today?
My beautiful resistance, my name is Cheney, and my beautiful resistance is that being able to have the opportunity to be on this panel today is amazing. And the fact that I'm able to tell stories and meet amazing people who are making history in the city for a living is just, I'm very grateful for that. So that's my beautiful resistance.
Cheney, I call him Baby Chain, but y'all can't call him that unless you can. Cheney is a director, a writer, a videographer. He's just very, very much an entrepreneur. When I interviewed Cheney, he was in the middle of quitting his full-time job to pursue being Cheney the director full-time with his partner Keeks. Shout out to Keeks. Tell me about what drew you to this project and being a fellow.
Yeah, I mean, I think what drew me to it, and it's like the whole time where you're talking about like the reason behind the beautiful resistance and really going deeper into people's stories and really being able to give people like a platform to tell their authentic truth. I'm just like nodding my head the whole time because it's exactly like what, I value, and what our business, my business CTD Productions, is really about, is like giving a platform so that people can really talk about their experience and go deeper into it. We just happen to work with a lot of sports organizations, but for us, it's like being able, like, for example, for the doc, that the Beantown Classic, like being able to hear from Vidal, like this 12-year-old kid who is not just a football player, but is creating a brand to fight against violence in his community, and how, his experience with family members spending time in jail, and how his relationship with his father really like molded him as a person. You don't necessarily have that opportunity to hear about that from people, especially in the Black and brown community. So that's exactly what we want to do, and that's exactly what you're doing. So I just think it aligned perfectly. So I was just excited to kind of be a part of that.
Oh, no, well, you already know how grateful I am. Cheney has been instrumental in helping me be more comfortable in front of the camera. Him and his partner Keeks, they just exude warmth and joy, and it's amazing. All of our videographers are incredibly talented. Damien brings that Hype Williams music video flavor. Kat brings the serenity and this real like strong, get it done energy. And Cheney brings the joy and the like, literally like king with a crown down for whatever. Like, let's go. If I call Cheney like later today and I'm like, yo, you busy? Let's go shoot. He literally is like, let's go. Like he's ready. And that energy is so athletic. It's very athletic. And I want to talk about Beantown Classic in the sports docuseries you do. And why telling sports stories matters. Like, why does that matter so much to you? Because you have such a deep experience in that.
And again, it's kind of what I was touching on, is that, I would even admit that I'm not necessarily the biggest sports fan. Like, I don't actually watch like the NFL every Sunday, but the stories behind the NFL and the stories behind the people playing sports, I think is the most impactful thing. And in the Black and brown community, you brought up like LeBron James, like if you're a super athletic person, or, even if like, people who are super athletic, they're just getting like highlight clips of like their athletic ability. But again, there's just like so much more to even the pursuit of getting a scholarship, or even the Beantown Classic, just participating in a weekend event. There's a lot that people have to go through, again, especially in the Black and brown community, to even participate in an event that's only happening for a weekend. And I think those stories deserve to have a platform to be heard. And I just love, like, every time, you might get a name and a number, and it's like, all right, you're going to go meet with this person, and you connect with them, and then you learn their history and everything. And it's like, I'm so glad I had this opportunity to meet you and learn that you're not just good at catching the ball, you actually are doing some amazing stuff. And so I think that's like exactly like my favorite part about it.
And it's such an important part, because it really does align with what we do at A Beautiful Resistance, because it's about making us more than the trope, and more what people think they know about us, and adding really adding the humanity, adding the human experience.
Yeah.
What drew you to videography?
I think what drew me to videography is, I think that I kind of like noticed, I think growing up, I'm a fan of like documentaries. I love like Last Chance University and things like that. But again, on the media, like, and I feel like I grew up, grew up in the early 2000s. So it's like, I watched a lot of TV, but you don't always get to see yourself represented. And so I think being a fan of television, being a fan of like that aspect, but then being able to have a different lens and a viewpoint on it, I think it kind of like allowed me to have an opportunity to be like, I want to do this because I love doing it, but I also feel like I have an opportunity to like really make an impact and make sure the stories I do are important. So I think that kind of like what really drew me to like being like, this is what I need to do.
How has it been? I mean, you struck out when I met you. Literally, I feel like the week you started with ABR was the week you quit your job.
Yeah.
How has it been striking out on your own? That's like a scary thing to do, but they say if you leap, God will catch you. That's what flying on faith. So tell me what that's been like.
I mean, I think every day is kind of like a roller coaster, because, you get, like from a business point of view, like you get some good opportunities, and then maybe, you might not shoot for a while, whatever. But like at the end of the day, it's like, I enjoy everything, like every moment, even the hard times. Like me and my partner, Mikhail, like we'll sit there even when we're stressing, and it's like, we actually love what we do. And being able to, like, for example, like with Vidal, like interviewing him and stuff like that, after you leave, as like, it was funny because like, it was not really funny, but we all when he was interviewing, he kind of cried. The whole room was crying. I was crying, Mikhail was crying, his father was crying. And it's like, when you leave experiences like that, it's like, no matter what issues come with like running your own business and being an entrepreneur and how to going outside of your like comfort zone, it's like that type of stuff is like, I need to make sure I need to do whatever I have to do to make sure I can do this for the rest of my life. So like I said, it's there's good and bad days, but overall, like just enjoying your life is like you can't really put a price on that. So
Answering a question. We had a question about someone was asking, did we know we could use actors from SAG? But I'm telling them these aren't actors. We're telling real stories of everyday people. There's nothing reenacted. These are their everyday lives.
that's funny.
And we have another audience question that I know Cheney's gonna love. They just asked why the Norfolk State University hoodie was worn. Cheney and I both have ties to the 757. First, Norfolk State University is literally my alma mater. I think this is a good time for me and Cheney to actually discuss that nothing we do is without intention. Even when something is not explicitly Black, like every episode I wear at least one piece of clothing that is Black owned, Black made, Black designed. At least one article of clothing or jewelry or something is a nod to Black culture. And even though Cheney's behind the camera, he also has like something on. We're very into sneaker culture, so we both always show up, very much as ourselves and of the culture. So I wore the Norfolk State University hoodie because I take my HBCU everywhere I go with me. And historically Black colleges and universities are under attack right now. There have been multiple bomb threats. And even before that, just funding issues and things like that. So I always am gonna represent Norfolk State every chance I get. But we also represent Boston. We even when we're in New York and Maryland and other places telling stories, we carry New England with us as well. That's just part of sharing the community.
I'd also add too, it's inspiring because every shoot that you come to, it's not just like a Black owned, it's very intentional of what it is. And like, yeah, like you're saying, like I've been trying to work on myself, like getting Black owned businesses, local businesses, but like you're on a whole nother level. So it's definitely I'm inspired to keep pushing myself to make sure I can get that level.
Thanks, Cheney. I'm actually glad you brought that up. I wanted to ask you, what have you learned during this process? What have you learned? Because I know you were making films before you came along to me, but I've noticed since we've been working together, you've been doing more stuff and trying new things, and hero shots are your jam now.
Yeah.
So like, tell me, what you've learned during this process since we've been working together.
Yeah, definitely hero shots. Love the hero shots. That's definitely been inspired from that. But I think the biggest thing is just that it expanded my view of the community that I can work in. Like being able to hop from going to Chef Doug and doing his restaurant to then like the next week or 2 weeks going to Ebony in the studio and dancing, and then like working with Golden in photography and spoken word, and like being able to like meet all these different people and knowing like how wide of a range I can really go and in telling stories and kind of inspiring me to like reach to find even different like alternatives of ways telling stories, and maybe not just necessarily sticking with sports, but Black people in the brown community like do everything. So there's opportunity everywhere to kind of find those stories and tell them. And I think just enhancing the storytelling as well, because like you're an amazing storyteller, you're a columnist, like you like the amount of work I put into the visual side, it's like you're doing that with the storytelling. So like even taking a little bit of nuggets from that and being able to like enhance my storytelling and just transferring that into like visual was probably another thing I learned.
How did you get your audience? I want you all to know that like I can be pretty like, because I have all these ideas and I do so much of the storyboarding for this series, it's hard for me sometimes to just relax when things go wrong. I freak out. Sometimes I cry. I just get upset when like things don't go right. And then I start pivoting immediately. I'm like, okay, this is what we need. This is what we need to do. We're going to do this. This is how we're going to save the day. But Cheney has taught me so much Zen. Him and his partner Keeks, or Michaela, they come to every shoot with so much calm energy. And I wanted to ask you today, like, how did you get this? Because I can pivot very fast. I mean, you've seen, I can pivot on the fly and, I could cry a little bit and get annoyed, and then I shake it off very fast and I come up with a plan right away. But the thing about you is like, you bring this ease that calms me down, it calms everyone down. How did you get this sense of ease of like, you know what, it's all going to be okay. Like you and Kayla both come to every set with that. And you're filmmakers, so I know that you have hurdles and challenges, and y'all still handle it with this like grace and faith that's just so inspiring.
Yeah. Damn, that's a good question. I wasn't even like prepared for something like that. I would honestly attest it to like my mother and my grandmother. And my grandmother actually just recently passed away, but the way that they're very calm people, and they're very like passionate about like human, and like, I don't know, the way that they talk to me about things, and they gave me a wide view of the world. So then it's like, it allows me to be calmer for situations, because I know that the world could be different. People can handle things differently. Some people like this, some people don't like that. And to, instead of necessarily like taking it personal, or like, I don't know, like trying to change that person or that experience, it's like more just accept it for what it is and be calm. And like, my mom never yells, my grandma never yells, very like calm, cool, and collected people. So I would say that they probably raised me to kind of just be level-headed and stuff like that, I guess.
So much love to your mother and your grandmother, whose memory we will lift up right now, and whose spirit you carry with you. What is your email? Is it Cheney the director at gmail.com or CTD?
Yeah.
Okay. I asked because we have an audience question asking how they can get in touch with us. So I'm typing it live.
Thank you.
What is next for you? What are you going to be making next?
Yeah. So actually, funny enough, I have another documentary series coming out. The trailer is coming out tomorrow, and the first episode will be coming out March 13th. So I'm very excited, and please everybody tune into that. But other than that, I think what the goal is for Michaela and I and our CTD Productions, our business, is to really start to connect with larger socially conscious organizations, so that we can increase the size of our platform to like continue doing what we do and being able to give people a voice, but just being able to grow and make sure that that voice gets even further and further and further, and we can include more and more voices. So definitely looking to like I said, partner with other socially conscious organizations and just continue to build and just enhance the quality of the work and the amount of people that we can connect with.
Where can people see that trailer tomorrow?
Yeah, so check me out on Instagram. It's Cheney the director, CHANEYTHA director. And you can also connect with me on my website, ctdproductionsllc.com. But if you find that Instagram, CTD Cheney the director, you'll be able to find everything that we're doing, and it'll be on YouTube and stuff like that. But
I just want to make sure they see this work. Someone asked, and I want to remind the audience, please use the Q&A function. We have time for questions, and whether you have questions for me or Cheney about ABR, about what Cheney does, we are here. An email is also going to go out that has like all the links, contact information and things like that. Cheney, we have a question. Someone asked what was next for A Beautiful Resistance. So I want to answer, but first I want to, Cheney's coming back. So Cheney and Michaela are coming back to work with me again. I like to think that we're probably going to be working together always, whether it's ABR or not. We've just formed a real creative camaraderie that I appreciate. But what do you want to see next in A Beautiful Resistance before I answer to the audience what's next?
I mean, I guess from my perspective, just like from the video side, I'm really excited. I've been studying my craft and continuing to like think of more creative ways to tell a story, adding, maybe more scenes to each shot and stuff like that. Just being able to like continue to tell a story in a better and better way, so that, when we can reach bigger audiences. And then I'm just excited to see, who's next up, because Janae always has an awesome group of people. So.
So just so y'all know, Cheney is the first person to successfully get me and the Globe to do almost a full-length episode, like 20 minutes long. It could have gone 30. And my editor is very much like, things need to be 10 to 12 minutes. So that speaks to his ability to shoot things differently and to edit so beautifully. Editing with him when we're going through drafts is such a beautiful process. It's partly why I knew I wanted him to come back. In addition to him and Keek's energy, I need it injected in my eye right now. But season 3 is going to take us new places. It's very much still going to be Boston and New England, but just like season 1, we went other places. Season 2, we went to Maryland. We've gone to New York. Season 3, we're probably, I think, going to go to California. So we're going to still have, at least the majority of the shows will still be New England based, but we're going to travel some and kind of really try to show the nuances, but also the similarities between Black life across the country. We're also going to experiment more. I trusted Chaney so much this season that we were able to just do things that I normally wouldn't do. So like dance on camera, like just really just being who I am, like when no one's watching. So I think that it has allowed me to be a better host and storyteller of a video series. I'm a writer. I'm very actually typically uncomfortable in front of the camera, and working with Chaney and Damien and Kat kind of helped that ease a lot of that. So I think season 3 is going to be more engaging. It's going to be more expansive and more beautiful. More beautiful. I've already started to compile a list of some names. We're also, I think going forward, there'll always be an episode like the Black Girl Magic episode where I'll step away from the camera. And I'm still behind, there asking the questions. But, when I came to everybody with that idea, they all thought it was crazy. When I told them, I want to have 3 Black women and I want it to be like vignettes, everyone kind of looked at me a little like, and what people don't realize is all 3 videographers worked on that. Each of them shot something. But I thought it turned out beautifully. And I think it's important sometimes to just let the story be told through their words and their images, and I can lead them in conversation and we can edit me out. I love that. So I think there's always going to be that. And, I'm really wanting to do a Black family episode where we actually spend time with a Black family and celebrate Black love. That's something that I wanted to do this season that we just weren't able to make happen. So that's we're coming back for that season 3. So, and there's already like a family in mind here in Boston that I'm begging for them to let us, sit with them and share space with them. I'm also considering how we gather as a through line, examining how we gather. So that's what's next. We have a few questions. Someone is asking, multiple people are asking where we're from. So Chaney's from Connecticut. Are you from New Haven, Chaney, or outside of New Haven?
Outside New Haven, Madison.
Yeah, okay, Madison. I am from the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia. Heavy emphasis on VA. I went to college in Norfolk. My Maryland connection is my family's there. Someone just asked that. So Chaney's Instagram is at Chaney the Director, THA. So CHANEY THA Director. That's his Instagram. And then also at A Beautiful Resistance. Someone just said they heard someone say resistance is only a word Black people can use. I don't know who said that, but that's definitely not true. Not true. Strong, hard disagree from me. A Beautiful Resistance is incredibly inclusive. We do center Black lives and Black joy, and I'll never back away from that. We will always center Black lives and Black joy, but we share space with all types of folks. We tell, our video stories are probably always going to be told through the lens of Black lives, but everyone forgets Black folks are from everywhere. Dart is Afro-Latino, OJ is Jewish. Like there's all these different ways to be inclusive. We have done the Api history I carry with me, celebrating Asian history. We've done the Pride I carry with me. We did Dia de los Muertos. We've done all different types of things in the Q&As and on Instagram. Everyone, all folks of color are invited, and we featured all folks of color on there. So I would say that it is inclusive. And I would also encourage people to understand that centering Black folks doesn't mean that other folks can't enjoy it. Black Panther centered Black life and the whole world went and saw it. Like, if everyone of color has been learning about white folks our whole lives, and we are learning all about that and valuing that and seeing both the beauty and the not so beautiful in it, then why wouldn't it be beneficial for everyone to learn about our lives and our dreams and who we are and other folks of color as well? So the idea that it would be exclusive is just not true. And the idea that resistance is something only Black people live is incredibly not true. Poor people and all types of immigrant people, LGBTQ plus people, poor white folks, gay white folks, like resistance is something that we all need to be using in the right ways, resisting hate, resisting oppression, resisting supremacy, resisting homogeny, resisting hierarchy. Like resistance is for everybody. Inclusivity is always going to be our mission. Someone asked, how do I muster the courage to report on a story that may be harmful to my livelihood or well-being? When I got into this game, no one told me that my life would be threatened. They don't teach you that in J school. They don't teach you that you'll be abused. They don't teach you that adults 10, 20, and 30 years your senior in your own profession will gaslight you. And those are all things I went through in my 20s. There was a time where I felt like a whole city was conspiring to hurt me outside of my editors who worked really hard to protect me. And I'm so thankful for them. I think a lot about Zora Neale Hurston, and if you don't speak about your pain, if you don't speak your truth, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. So I try my best to always speak my truth and also tell the truths of our people and other folks of color. And on those days when I am crying on the floor or want to quit, I think this is how I lose. This is how they win. This is how the people who want me dead or who want to shut me down, is how they win, is if I stop. This is the power that we have. I don't have the privilege of silence or walking away. So that's how I mustered the courage. And also being able to show up and have a team. One thing I didn't say is working with Cheney and Damien and Kat is the first time in my entire career I've worked with a Black team. I've never had a Black editor. I've never even sat directly next to a Black colleague, because that's how whitewashed this industry is. And I've had more courage this past year in times that Cheney has seen me on days when I found out someone died and I still had to keep working. So it's like having him, having Damien, having Kat be around me helped me persist and resist. So that's, it's having that support, having those editors, having Steve Paul and Jason Toohey and Katie McMaster and Sharon Hoffman and Keith Robinson, all the editors I've had over the last 20 years of my career, who, even when we were working in systems with people who didn't believe in me, they believed in me. So that definitely helped. Someone wants to know about the artistry and focus of the approach to a beautiful resistance. Cheney, answer that first. What's your approach to shooting for ABR?
Yeah, I think one of the important things you're talking about is like having a person of color, Black person, being able to film Black people, because being able to have that insight and understanding of ways to empower and, things that maybe I wouldn't want, like don't be close to me and things like that. So I think that's very important. And then also just, I'm continuously studying my craft. I take every single day, anytime I have a free time, to read up or, find new ways to just improve what I do, because the messaging is always so important. So the visuals have to match that. so that it can be presentable for the world. So I think just always being a student of the game, and then just, using my own experiences when I'm shooting to not only like get the great shot, but also know what to look for. Like even when I'm doing like sports and things like that, like I look for things that, because I want that experience to be shown, it's something that I'm able to highlight. So
I love that. My approach is very spirit led. It's very like me listening to my intuition, listening to my spirit, me also considering what's been done before, what hasn't been done before, what is the arc of the season, how to amplify as many nuanced voices as possible. I also, it's a weird thing to say, but it's like, how am I protecting the community? How am I protecting them community? How are we protecting them, and how are we celebrating and respecting them? How are we being proper witnesses and curators? I ask myself as many questions as I ask my subjects, I ask myself, how am I being in community with the community to empower the community? That's kind of always guiding my process. Even if it means like Cheney and Michaela are always like, I hope you're resting, even if it, sometimes I'll go 7 days straight, but if that's what's necessary, I do it. And then I take a break, because rest is important. If Chef Douglas is ever listening, rest is important. He won't rest, y'all. If y'all go into me to tell Chef Douglas to rest. But yeah, that's what's guiding the process. I want to remind everybody that in the email, you will get all of the resources we've mentioned today, Cheney's email, my email, the websites, the links. We might try to get Cheney to give us that trailer, drop that hot fire on y'all. Season 3 will be coming. We'll start shooting probably very early summer, late spring. So it'll be coming by the end of summer, early fall, if all goes well. Cheney and I are working on a top secret project that's not a beautiful resistance project, but it is for the Boston Globe. And we're gonna start working on that fairly soonish. Just know that it'll be on the Boston Globe, and it's not ABR, but it is incredibly Boston. And all I'll say is if you like fashion, you'll love it. And there'll be all folks will be in this, people of color and everyone else too. It's going to be a very New England but universal fashion story that I think what you think, Cheney?
what?
You can't tell them what it is, but how would you describe what we're about to embark upon?
Damn. I mean, it's a very important culture, at least to a lot of people. People live by it. I don't know how to give it away without telling what it is.
Hopefully that got you interested. We are not going to, Michaela says hints are in. See, this is why Cheney and I need geeks. Michaela just let you all know, if you go back and watch AVR season 2, you'll see little hints about what's coming next. I want to thank everyone for joining us. We have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Otherwise, we'll let you get back to your beautiful day on, this last day of Black History Month, but Black History Month is 365, 366 on leap year, boo. So we love all of y'all, and thank you so much for constantly being in community with me, Cheney, and Michaela in the audience, and Amber for kicking us off today. I'm checking one more time to see if there's any more questions. Resources, again, will be sent out. That's, and if you need mental health resources, someone just asked about that. I will get with our person who puts together our post email to make sure that we send a couple of mental health resources out, because that is something that we push with the Beautiful Resistance is wellness. So take care of your beautiful resistance as we take care of ours. Have a blessed day.